listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complication.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Today is a super funny topic because we're actually going to talk about why technology is only good when it works, because last week we had a crap out with our podcast technology, Riverside. So wait till you hear this story. It's kind of funny and kind of sad, and we had an oh crap moment, and we had to take a step back and figure out, kind of get our ducks in a row and figure out what was happening. But that's what we're talking about today, and then we're going to talk about why you want to build an email list. And I know it's just cliche and everybody talks about it, but rented land is a big deal, and why you want to not only have all of your assets and content and everything on rented land. And let's get right to it. Yeah, so I thought this would be something really good to record because we all live on rented land, right? We're playing on rented land, rented space, Riverside, LinkedIn, like all the social media channels, YouTube, Wistia, all of the stuff where we host and record. And if you're not backing up your things, if you're not backing up your content, your assets, your videos, like all of the things that you have that live out there in the cloud, and you're not backing them up somewhere, whether it's an external hard drive or even if it's a Google Drive or somewhere, and then that software goes down, you're beholden to that software. Like it's gone, like that stuff is gone. So coming up with some sort of backup process or some sort of process where this blows up tomorrow and I don't know where any of my shit is a really big deal. So that's what happened to us last week. We record all of these podcast recordings on Riverside. All of a sudden, my right-hand person, Andrea, she logs in and she says, all your stuff's gone. I'm sorry, what? And sure as shit, we logged in, and every single podcast recording that we had, every single social media recording we had, all of it, the entire studio was gone. And so, of course, mad panic, mad dash. This happened right before I was supposed to interview my next podcast person. And so I told that person, give me a few minutes, I'll be there. But I had no studio, everything was gone, and we started chatting with, I sent Andrew to go chat with the Riverside team, and they had no idea what was happening, and they sent her to email. So instead of live chat, she had to wait for an email. So we're checking, and they still have no idea what happened. All of a sudden, think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. The entire studio was back, and they found everything, and it had been deleted. And my first response was, well, why? We didn't delete it. Why would we delete our entire video library? And so they still have no clue what happened. The dev team is looking into it. And so they're off looking into like what happened. And push comes to shove, we were like, okay, well, I'll just record on my iPhone, but I can't interview anybody on my iPhone. So it was one of those things where now we're looking at backup alternatives, right? We have to have an alternative if we actually want to continue doing this podcast. There's got to be an alternative, right? Well, the same thing goes for everything that you do with social media. So this is why email list builders or people who promote email list building, why they push it so hard, right? Why they really want you to build your email list, because it's the only thing that you own. Okay. You don't own LinkedIn. You don't own Facebook. You don't own Instagram. You don't own YouTube. You don't own any of these softwares or systems. You don't own them. If something happens to them, unless it is proprietary to you and you built it, you don't own it. Okay. You are playing on rented land. And if something happens to that rented land, you are screwed. So you have to put some systems and processes in place. You have to have backup plans. And so one of my backup plans is going to be to buy an external hard drive. You know, you go to Best Buy, you buy one of those hard drives that's about this big, and we're going to have an external hard drive, and I'm just going to download everything off, like videos and stuff like that, and download them there so that we always have them. Or at least for now, I told the team, okay, crap, we have a file structure out on Google Drive, right, in our Google Workspace. So they're going to download all of the videos that we record, the raw files, not the edited files, because obviously we want those too, but we want the raw video. Like, what if we ever want to go back and change it and re-edit it or pull different clips? Same thing was with your social media, right? Like you need to have the raw storage somewhere. The raw files need to live somewhere. And then you need to have version control. So one of the clients that we're working with right now, this is one of the things that we're working on for her. She is a business coach. She is a leadership coach, and she edits and she has version control on her files, or she wants to. Right now she's using Google Drive and she's just kind of copying and making new files. So what we're going to put in place for her is an actual version control, whereas you upload one master file. Okay, it's called a DAM system. It's digital asset management. You upload one master file. And then anytime the file gets edited, it's a version, right? It's version control. It gets edited and it's saved as a version with a new name. So there's always, always, always a raw file to go back to. You're never creating a duplicate copy. There's nothing, you're never going to have something with the same name, which is horrible when you're trying to search and find files. So if you're somebody that has, like, you're a coach and you have lots and lots and lots of coaching files and programs and courses and all of this stuff, you really need to look into like a DAM system, digital asset management repository, so that you have the ability to have this version control and be able to keep master files. So the rented space thing is a big deal. I know you hear everybody talk about it all the time. We hear about it all the time. But the list building, like, you own your email list. If LinkedIn blows up tomorrow, or Facebook or YouTube or whatever channel you're on, X, Twitter, like wherever you are, if that is gone tomorrow, how are you going to contact your customers? How are you going to reach out to them? Right? You're not a brick and mortar. You own a digital online business. You get all your clients online. If you don't have an email list and you don't have at least a phone number or a phone number or an email, and these platforms go down, you have no way of contacting them. Build your list. Build your list up. Build a simple CRM. Use Airtable. You can use Airtable to build this. You can use Excel. I highly recommend you do not use Excel. If you're using Excel to get started, the only way that is going to actually be secure is if you have an enterprise Google account, which is Google Workspace. Okay? So Google Workspace is when you're paying Google for, you're not using the free Gmail and the free Google, you are paying them monthly for an email, like a premium email. You're going to get Google Work Drive. So you're getting that business enterprise version, even if it's just the starter package at $6 a month. You're still exchanging money for something that's more secure behind a firewall. So if you're paying money to Google, you can absolutely use a Google spreadsheet to start out your CRM, but I highly recommend you do not end up there. Okay, like, don't, it's just bad practice. You don't want to keep people's personal information in a document that can be shared super easily. So Airtable is a really, really good system for creating a very simple but quick to set up CRM. It's basically Excel or Google Sheets on steroids, and it's got simple automations and stuff like that built in. If you're interested in learning more, you guys can reach out and find me, and I will be more than happy to show you the ropes. It's really, really simple to set up, and it's actually pretty easy to maintain if you're just looking to capture like first name, email, phone number, like the basic information, and just create so that you have a list, a contact list when you want to get a hold of people if something does happen to rented land. But yeah, for sure, create something, start building a list right now. Like, even if you don't have a newsletter or you don't have anything like that, you just need to, even if you only touch your customers once a month, let's say you touch your customers once a month, meaning you're going to send them information once a month about products, services, whatever, promotions, doesn't even matter. Okay. If you have people and they are talking to you and you are talking to them on a regular basis, you have the basis for an email list. Ask them for their email. You can send them review requests, like just get their information so that you can contact them and you have a way to contact them if something happens. A lot of software has, like the autosave feature, right? But it's still software that you don't own, right? So if you're relying on somebody else's software to save your information, so even if it's autosave is freaking awesome, right? You definitely want to use softwares that and tools and systems that have autosave because it saves you the headache of, oh crap, did I save it? And the oh crap moments of, oops, there goes all my stuff. So autosave is a fantastic thing to have, but it's still, if you're dealing with large amounts of data and large amounts of customer information and just, I would say anything more than 50, you want to back the stuff up externally, meaning an external hard drive or save it to your actual hard drive. Now, I'm not saying that this is a silver bullet, right? Like, I'm not saying that this is going to solve all of your problems because I can tell you stories of, I've had a friend whose MacBook, he saved everything to his MacBook and the cloud. He was doing both, like he was backing everything up and he was backing up everything to his MacBook, and his MacBook took shit and he had to go to the Geek Squad, or sorry, the Genius Bar, the Apple Genius Bar, and they couldn't get anything back. So there are those cases. I just think that you need to have your information in more than one place, more than one secure place when you're considering it like assets and stuff like that. Customer information, you really only want a single source of truth. So a single source of truth, a single source database, that's going to be your master database that you always go back to. You definitely don't want customer information to live in multiple different places. And I can tell you right now that any IT guy or security guy that's worth a damn, if you have large amounts of data, we're talking hundreds of thousands of data sets, and you don't have your own server, that's probably not a good thing. You should have that information on a secure server in a secure location that is like your server, like you own it, dedicated server, dedicated IP, right? Because you don't want to have hundreds of thousands of data sets and like data rows and pieces of information that you're pushing back and forth living on somebody else's property because they don't pay their bill, their software breaks, whatever it may be, and once again you're relying on their stuff to work 100% of the time. A lot of people will ask me, how often should I back up, Megan? And that really depends on your business, right? And it also depends on the amount of data that you have. So if you're running, again, the scenarios are so different when you're running small amounts of data. You have maybe 100 to 1,000 data sets. And when I say data sets, this is like I'm referring to like numbers of people, right? So like you have 1,000 people on your list compared to 15,000 people to 180,000 people. It's very, very different. When you are looking at 15,000 people plus, I would even say 10,000 people plus, you're going to be backing that up every hour on the hour if you can, right? Like that's a lot of data to lose. That's just a lot of data to lose. You don't want to lose that. So you're going to want to back it up at minimum 24 hours. Every 24 hours, you're going to want to have that thing back up. But I would say every hour if you have the manpower to do so and the system to do so. When you're pushing anything that's under 10,000 rows, under 10,000 people, you can probably get away with doing it, every 24 hours. You don't necessarily need to do every hour. Because I'm such a huge data person and because I feel like data is so important to the livelihood of your business, I tell everybody to back up every hour. So when we do our systems for people, I'm like, oh, we're going to back it up every hour. And they're like, that's a little excessive. And I was like, no, it's fine. We're just going to do it for you. It's fine. And so I just put it in place and we don't even tell people. And then when they find out years later down the road, they're like, oh, thank you so much for doing that. Now it's just in there and it's always doing it. So it's recommended to back up as often as you can but again, controlling data, moving data, and it's expensive. Data is an expensive business, so it can get costly. But unless you're using the right systems and tools will have that ability, and the right servers. Definitely, if you're doing a dedicated IP server or a dedicated server for your systems, it will, you can do a nightly server backup, and it's basically doing a version control of everything that lives on that server is getting backed up every 24 hours. And if you have to roll back, you roll back to whatever that version is, of that, kind of like a snapshot, right? Like whatever that snapshot is 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago. And usually it'll keep up to, you can specify like how, like you want to keep 6 months worth of data, you want to keep 24 months worth of data. You can specify the amount of data and how long you keep it as well. Make sure you put that in your privacy and terms and conditions on your website. Anytime you have a server, or even if it's somebody else's, put their privacy and terms and conditions on your website. Make sure you're telling people when and how often you're keeping, like how long you're keeping their data, when the backups are happening, so that if anybody, wants to say or wants to request you to not keep their data or whatever, those little pop-ups that come across the bottom of the websites, those actually mean something. If you want people to stop collecting your data, or you want them to you want them to delete your data, those terms and conditions and those privacy policy terms actually mean something. It's not just an annoying bar. That's what they're doing. They're housing your data, and it tells you how long they're keeping your data. So 6 months, a year, 2 years, it'll tell you in those terms and conditions, at least if they're written correctly and properly, it should. That is all we've got for today. So I will see you next week. And remember, technology is only good when it works.